I can do two things at the same time.
Got it. And I approved everything on my end too.
Awesome. So, except I see myself over there. I don't want to see myself.
Oh, we're live streaming. Yeah.
Yes. So let's start.
Awesome.
I am glad that we are joined today by Carmen Hunter. Carmen is the founder of the Institute of Functional Health Coaching. She is passionate about helping people find wellness through natural steps, small steps that are manageable. And she's also passionate about helping coaches help their clients. Carmen, I am so thrilled that you are with us today.
I'm happy to be here. One of my favorite topics and one I think is so important. I mean, so important all the time, but now more than ever.
Oh my gosh, yes. I know we talk about the 7 pillars of wellness, and stress is definitely, and stress perception is definitely at the top of that list. I know about 15 years ago, I was in an incredibly stressful time, and I know that's what activated my celiac disease. I just could feel, I'm like, I know the stress is killing me. And literally it was.
Yes. So, yeah. Big misconception for me when it comes to stress. Well, first and foremost, when people say, well, you have to start with food, everyone says start with food when you're trying to get well. But I always say back it way up, because you could be doing all of those things that we talk about all the time very well. You could be going to bed at the right time, eating the right food. But if you have underlying stress, or you have stress that you don't even know that you have, subconscious stress, right? You can undo all of the work that you're doing. So for me, one of the most important parts of being a health coach and working with hundreds of clients and figuring out, like, telling someone to reduce stress is actually stressful, right?
Yes.
Managing
it adds to your load.
Oh, please. Yeah. It's just going to make you feel worse. And then managing your stress also feels the same to me as reducing your stress. It's like I always tell people, you've got 100 plates in the air, and somebody says, well, you can let one go. Which one is it that's going to fall on the floor? Because it's all going to go. Right. So seeing it differently to me is really important. And I am just like everyone else, having every day something comes up, and I actually have to take the steps for myself to stop and look at it and go, what kind of energy does this require from me right now? How much energy do I have to give to this? And when I say energy, that means how much stressful energy do I have to put towards it? Because stress is actually quite helpful. If we think about it, it can be helpful for us, right?
Sure. If you isn't constant and chronic.
Yeah. And if it helps you to survive, right? It helps you to run. It helps you to get things done. It helps you to survive emergencies and things like that. But like you said, if it becomes chronic, that's a problem. But what about the acute things that pop up? Like something, pops up in the middle of the day that you didn't expect. That's not chronic. It's acute, right? It's immediate stress. So how do you handle that? Like if something happens, it's unexpected for you. Let's just say that we weren't able to go live and you couldn't get going today. That would be an acute stressor for you. What would you be doing to handle that?
Oh, I know how I would be feeling to handle it. And just I know how I would feel. It would be like total body, like, but just before we went live, I was doing some slow breathing in, hold it, blowing out my mouth. Just trying to, it's okay. It's all good. Just trying to do some breathing. That's my usual go-to, and a lot of prayer, but a lot of breathing.
Right. So we want to get it before the body starts to get flooded, right? Which is the breathing part you're talking about. That's super helpful, because if you know something can stress you out and you're not like, okay, please let all the marketing and tech go well, the tech go well, please let everything go the way it should, then you're getting ahead of the game. Because if it doesn't, you've already put that tone out there. Like, okay, I've said my prayer for this. I'm hoping it's going to go well. But the other thing that we can do is say a couple things to ourselves before something, when something acute happens, we can say, I'm not going to die. Right. It's one of my favorite things to say. And it may sound extreme, because I said this to my kid the other day. I said, you got to tell yourself you're not going to die. He's like, I don't think I'm going to die. I'm like, no, but your body, body thinks that you are, because you're sending messages from the thoughts in your mind that could happen. It doesn't know the difference. And I think that's one thing people struggle with, is they don't know. People don't understand that your body doesn't know the difference between happy having a baby, getting married stress. Oh my gosh, I can't get my computer to work. Someone's ringing the doorbell in the middle of a webinar stress. It's all the same to the body. So how we think about it and how we see it is really important. That's why I changed, stress management and reduction to stress perception.
I think so how do you go about doing that? Do you have is it just something we just have to work on? We have to consciously say, okay, I know some of the things that stress me out in a bad way. I'm well, besides, I'm not going to die, which
Right.
I love. There's something I saw, you've survived 100% of the bad days that you've had.
I love
Because,
that.
and it's the same thing, we've survived the stressful situations that we've had, or else we wouldn't be sitting here talking about them. But how do we do it better?
How do we do it better? So, one of the first things for me is always like, am I in my body right now? Am I just going through the motions of my day? Am I typing? Am I walking? Am I at the store? Am I just going through the motions? And then have you ever like been driving and you don't know how you got somewhere? You're like,
yeah,
how did I already get here?
Yeah.
Well, that's because we're not living inside of our bodies. We're on autopilot. So being really present and in your body and able to feel the sensations that come up is really important. That alone causes to kind of back up and go, well, how do you get present? Right? How do you even begin that
How do you
process?
do that?
For me, I say, I try to feel the ground beneath my feet. So as I'm going through my day, I try to make a conscious reminder, oh, okay, there's the ground beneath my feet, right? Oh, there's this glass I feel in my hand. Or like I like to share, oh, I'm brushing my teeth or I'm combing my hair. You say the things that you're doing in the moment you're doing them, because there's no way to be anywhere else if you do that in your mind. So next time you start to think, you're spinning off on autopilot and you're like, okay, I got to get back in my body. Say what you're doing. Picking up my phone. Okay. So, and then ask yourself, could I have been doing anything else while I thought that? Right. So getting present and getting in your body, being able to connect to those feelings that come in as they come in is really helpful. So when the feelings come in, I'm not going to die is an easy, quick one to say, to tell your body nothing bad's going to happen here. And then the other question is it an emergency or is it an urgency? That's my big one, because the body thinks everything's an emergency. And I lived in an emergency for a couple of years, getting divorced and all that. You don't even know how to function without thinking the world's an emergency. So that's when I learned that. I'm like, why am I running around like the world's going to end? Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so understanding the difference between what an emergency is and what's an important urgency for you is also helpful. And so the other thing is the breathing is really important too, like you said, Debbie. But I think a lot of people breathe from the wrong place in their body. So they're breathing from their chest, short, shallow breathing, which doesn't encourage our body to go into that nice relaxation place of parasympathetic response, which comes from really deep, filling the belly up with air and deep breaths, right? Yeah. That resets the nervous system. So this isn't something that you do overnight. You don't learn this just from this, 20, 30 minutes of talking we're doing. You have to make a conscious effort that you want your life to be different, and you want to see things different, that you need your life to feel different.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And so once you do that, then you start to remember some of these tips. It's like, oh, wait a minute, that's not an emergency. Okay. This is okay. This isn't going to kill me. I'm just going to get through the dinner with the in-laws or whatever it is that brings you pain. Right. Because, I think we put a lot of meaning on things that doesn't belong there as well. I think we apply a lot of harmful thoughts and negative thinking and if we're honest about it, dangerous to our health types of things to situations that don't deserve that. Right.
Mm-hmm. Right. Absolutely. Yeah. I think we train ourselves and we get in that habit of everything is the last straw. Everything is the end of the world. Yes. And it's really hard to pull back. That becomes a learned behavior, becomes a habit. But you have to start these new habits.
100%. And, when we talk about perceiving something differently, it also means once you get some of these habits in place where you're able to see things, you look at them and you ask yourself certain questions. You can do little dialogues with yourself. Like, is this something that I want to spend my time on? If it's, your body's going to tell you, if you're feeling stress that's coming up about something and you're like, oh, aggravated or whatever, that's a signal. Your body's saying to you, I'm starting to feel a little stressed here. And it might be a very subconscious thought you've got about this task or this thing or this person or this event or this, whatever's going on. I think listening to those messages is really important, but we don't do that anymore. If you're not in your body, you can't hear, feel, and think the things that your body are telling you to hear, feel, and think. Mm-hmm. And so then all of a sudden you're overcome by those feelings of heat and emotion and heart pounding and all the stress feelings that come in, or your gut might be churning if you've got gut issues. Mm-hmm. And instead we'll take a Tums pill, we'll take a you know, as not we, but, you know, a Xanax
Yeah.
or just something to calm all those things down rather than being conscious and aware. Oh, I actually have control over these things. And that's a powerful thing to believe. I get to control the outcome of what happens to how I feel and what happens within me.
Yes. Yes. Oh, it, it makes so much sense and it's such a goal, but it's so, it's challenge. I mean, because we live in such a 100%, 100-mile-an-hour society. You know, we're always, our phones are always going, or, you know, everything's always going, and taking time to be out and alone and quiet.
It's a choice, Debbie. It's a choice. We
Yep.
choose to pick that phone up. We choose to get on here and
Yes.
engage. And we choose to make
Yep.
that a part of our lives. And, you know, I posted something on Instagram today. Actually, it was last night where it was a bunch of pictures of all the books that I have laying around my house. And I said, next time someone asks me what my credentials are, I'm going to send them an email with all these books, right? Because I'm
Right.
trying to make a point here that how we learn and the knowledge that we get doesn't have to be from a degree. It doesn't have to be from any of those things. So I was just sharing some business information. And this girl said, oh, that looks like my house. I've got books everywhere, but I can't sit still long enough to read them. And that's a big problem. Like you said,
Yep.
we're going 100 miles an hour. We choose to go 100 miles an hour until we don't.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yep. And, or we can't, and it would be better to choose it before we don't choose not to, rather than not able to.
Before we can't. Right. But
Before
you know,
we
the thing is it's interesting how we always find time and space and money for the priorities in our lives. So for me,
That's
it always
true.
goes back to what's a priority for me. You know, for me, a priority is starting my day with my Bible and my reading and my journaling and my tea and my quiet music, so that I start the day feeling good about the direction that my day is going. I find myself less picking up my phone, less worrying about the world around me, less urgent, you know, behaviors that feel like emergencies. And I mean, ever since I kind of took this on, and this has been a few years and it's still a work in progress, you know,
Sure.
that I've been working on this. Ever since then, I mean, again, my screen time is down, my stress levels are lower. I roll with the punches easier. When things happen, I go, okay, I guess we're going to have to find another way to do that. And the best thing about it, Debbie, is it's the trickle down effect, because I have kids living in my house and people in and out, teenagers all day long. And they sit on a bench in front of my desk when they want their counseling or their coaching. And I tell them, this is not an emergency. Tell me what the most important part of this is that we get to share what we learn about stress with the people that are below us and around us. And we get to change and elicit change for those people. So our kids, we need to be working on this with our kids as much as possible.
Oh, absolutely. I know. I was just thinking, like, last week, you know, one of my kids was a little stressed, or a lot stressed. And I'm thinking, am I just old and like mellowed, or have I like maybe learned something along the way that is helping me not to be reacting like someone else was? You know, I want to pass those lessons along so they can learn them in maybe an easier way than when I learned them. So I'm glad to hear maybe I'm not just old, maybe I'm just wiser, you know, more experienced. I'll go with that.
Oh yeah. And I tell you,
No,
I don't know about you.
Experience.
I would not go back to those days of feeling like everything, you know what I mean? Like the teenage years and the 20s, you know, and now they have words for everything. So they have FOMO, fear of missing out. I didn't know what that meant for the longest time. I'm like, what does that mean? And my son was like, I don't know, 10 at the time, or 11. He's like, fear of missing out, Mom. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I have that too, but we didn't have a name for it.
We didn't have a name for it, but that there is a name for it now is really telling.
Yeah. Oh, there's a name for everything. I mean, I mean, I had to get really savvy with all those acronyms meant, like OMW. I'm like, what does that mean? On my way, Mom. I'm like,
oh, that one. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Acronyms for everything for teenagers.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there is a wedding coming up in less than 2 weeks. So there's, you know, stressful things, but trying to find the joy in those stressful things. Like, we're doing these things because it's going to be a great event.
Right.
Not only a great event, but it's going to be a great marriage. They're, you know, well paired, and it's going to be a really good marriage. So even though we're trying to run around and make sure this is right and that's right and that's right, it's not an emergency. It's not even really, it's getting more urgent as the day gets closer, but
exactly.
But we're not going to die. So that's right. Yeah, really good. And even if you can say that, it might make you even chuckle a little bit if you can remember that.
Oh, it's a message to the nervous system is what it is. It has been proven clinically on scans and everything to calm down the amygdala, like really calm the brain down when you say, I'm not going to die. Like, oh, okay. And the other thing I love to say is, and I do this when I do investigative inquiry with people, I say, okay, so what's the worst thing that can happen? Well, this could happen. I'm like, okay, if that happens, what's the worst thing that could happen from that happening? Well, then this. And it always ultimately ends up with someone's biggest fear. I could be abandoned. I could be rejected. I could die. I could lose all my money. I could, all of these things. I'm like, okay, and then what? Right. So that always for me goes back to faith. If you have faith, you can't be in fear. If you have faith, then you always have a touchstone and a solid place to land. So for me, always going back to faith. And for me, I don't know about you, Debbie, but whenever something tries to come in, I do the golden key that Emmett Fox talks about. And all I do is I think the word God.
Okay.
So that's called the golden key. So anytime something comes in and starts to elevate your heart rate or make you feel nervous, or you start to spin off, if you can remember to say whatever, God, whoever your God is, whatever it is, it automatically will calm you down automatically. At least it does me. And everybody that I've been trying to teach it to. Yeah. So much we can do differently than so many years ago. Because a long time ago, Debbie, none of this was going on. We didn't have all this stuff in the world. We were out in our gardens. We were on our front porch drinking lemonade, waving at the neighbors. We were not living this lifestyle. So it's up to us to change the way that we're living and see the way that we're living so we can get back to the basics of living like normal people and not robots that they've programmed to type in and dial into everything that's stressing us out.
Yes. I mean, it's one thing to take advantage, use the technology well, use things well, but they should be a tool, not the center focus.
100%.
Yeah. So when you've been working with clients over these last dozen or so years, how have you seen this help your clients? I mean, do you have maybe a story? Without a name, of course, you have to share that transformation.
Well, one of the story and I know I probably shared this with you because you and I've been friends for a while now, but this story about the woman who had exercise intolerance and could not go for a walk, could not do anything. It would land her in bed for days, literally land her in bed with complete fatigue where she couldn't even feel like she could lift her arms up. So we were trying to figure it out. I said, where is this coming from? And she has a high stress job, mom, full-time, job, driving an hour to and from work each day, trying to do all the paleo food and do all the food right, lose weight, blah, blah. And I said, I just want you to wander. I just want you to wander. She goes, what? What do you mean? I said, I want you to walk without purpose. So basically take your shoes off. It was summertime. Take your shoes off, go barefoot, tell everyone in the house to leave you alone. I don't even want you to give yourself the job of getting the mail. I just want you to go outside and walk. Okay. So she did that. I said, just for a week and see what happens. Just see what happens. She said that when she was out there and could feel the ground beneath her feet, the grass under her feet, she was so in tune to no phone was allowed, right? To the birds, to the feeling of the sun, to everything around her, that when she would come inside, she had more energy from wandering than she did from going for a jog or whatever it was. And she wasn't tired. And it only took a couple of weeks for her to really get back on track. But what she really did for herself was rewire her brain to what's important and what's stressful. She said it was unbelievable because she would be at work and think, I don't have dinner ready for tonight. Oh my God. After that, she was like, I don't have dinner. It's okay. We'll eat a little later. She had a whole new feeling inside of her body, and she knew how to tap into that when she was in traffic, when she was at her desk. She remembered what that feeling was to feel calm and started utilizing that. Yeah.
It's so simple. It's terrific. Maybe that's why I like being barefoot so much. I love the beach and just having my toes in the sand. It's like the most relaxing feeling that I can have. That's my happy place. But even being outside, being barefoot does feel good. I hadn't really thought about why but it is calming.
Yeah. The energy of the earth. It is. And we just got back from the beach, about 5 days ago. And, when I was there, I remember thinking, this is one of my favorite places too. Right. And I remember thinking, nobody has to tell the ocean to calm down, right? It does it on its own. Nobody has, there's just so much that's in nature that we need to be learning from. We need to get back to paying attention to the things around us and the natural rhythm of things, because we have a rhythm.
We do.
We have a circadian pattern and a circadian rhythm, and that rhythm flows beautifully for us if we get out of our own way, right? So cortisol is your stress hormone. It goes up and down with your stress, right? The higher it is, the more unhealthy you are for the most part. Mm-hmm. So if we are out of that pattern, that rhythm, so to speak, that nature and God gave to us, more opportunity for stress to come in, right? So, right. You know, living as close to that circadian rhythm as you can is a natural modulator for your hormones and a natural modulator for your pattern, which helps with your stress. It's the number one thing we can do. Go to bed when the sun starts to go down if you can, you know, close to it.
Yeah. I say we eat dinner at sunset. It changes throughout the year what time we eat dinner because it always just happens to work out. That's when it's part of our pattern. But turning off the TV and not having the blue light and trying to be in line with your circadian rhythms. We do have a recording about sleep that we did about 6 months ago. So that's on the fair also still. So, but so stress, like when someone comes to you or you're walking, so stress is like one of the number one thing that you start working on or trying to call people's attention to see if that's maybe an issue in their lives.
100%. And I also like to say, I've had people before, I've worked with hundreds of clients over the years. And one of the things I love, I don't have any stress. I'm like, oh, aren't you special? You have no stress at all. You're not worried about money. You're not worried about your relationship. Everything's great with your kids. Your house is in perfect order. You're happy with your weight. Like you don't have any childhood traumas. You've got best friends that support you. Really? I meant I didn't have any financial stress, or I meant I didn't have any marital stress. I'm like, okay, so the world has a lot more stressors than just those basic things that people seem to think about. So before we deny the things in our lives that are stressful, we need to be honest with ourselves about what stress really is so that we can be facing it in a way that makes sense. So for me, it's like, okay, I know what my stressors are. I know the things that trigger me the most. How do I manage to look at those things differently? And my kid went on a 3-week trip out west. This summer. Yeah. 16 years old, hopped in a 4Runner with a 21-year-old cousin, and it was my choice to send him. And don't think that there's not a parent out there that'd be like, I would never, right?
Yeah.
So I said a prayer with them, and I made sure they had everything that they needed. But I also had to remember what's mine and what's not mine to worry about. So if he's on the road and they've got things going on and they call me and I'm like, okay, I can give you some guidance, but it's not my body's stress to take on. So that's another really important thing is remember what's yours and what's not yours, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And here's a trick I learned yesterday, and I can't remember what it's called. It's like Jin Jitsu or I don't know, something like that. But where you can grab the pinky, the left hand pinky of another person who's under a stressful event, having a stressful event where their heart and their palpitations and their rhythms out of control. And you can put your right hand on their back between their scapula, right? And you can regulate their heart rhythm with yours.
Wow.
So,
left pinky
with your hand. So like someone would be holding my pinky and then they would put their hand on my back until my heart got into rhythm with theirs. Yeah.
What a fantastic tool.
And you can also put your hand on someone's heart and put their hand on your heart, because I don't even remember how many feet is it from the body. Do you remember that the heart radiates energy and frequencies at 10 feet?
I don't know. But okay, if your arm, it can't be more than your arm's length, because then that wouldn't work.
Right. So it's close, but that way we are able to soothe and calm each other. With heart rate variability and heart rate frequencies and all of those things make a difference. So if you know someone in your life that struggles with stress and doesn't know how to get to that place, you don't have to talk them through it. You don't have to take it on for them, but you can walk over and calmly ask for, permission. Can I, help you out here and let me help you balance? And then just take a moment and do your breathing and help your heart, think about your heart resonating with theirs, and then get them back online. We heal in connection.
I'm sorry, I'm just taking that in. I'm just processing that, how simple that is. And being in connection with other people, we're built for relationships. I mean, it makes sense that we should be able to help each other like that.
Yes. Yeah. One of my favorite things to do. I mean, and you can do it for yourself too. You can simply just grasp your left pinky and regulate your breathing and calm yourself like that as well.
Okay. Well, terrific. Well, Carmen, is there anything else you'd like to share about stress perception before I mean, you have covered so many things. I have to go back and take notes because I didn't want to take notes while we were talking, but
it's the beauty of being a fast talker. I can just rattle it off, but I will make a book recommendation, 2 book recommendations.
Oh, good.
One for people who are in financial stress called Happy Money. Okay. It's one of my favorite books so far, Happy Money. And then the other book for just a general idea of what this means to see stress differently and understand that it's here to help us, The Upside of Stress by Kelly McGonigal. Okay. So those 2 books, I can't remember the name of the guy who wrote Happy Money because I'm almost done to the end of it, Ken somebody or other, but you can just look it up. It's a bright yellow book. But I'm a big fan of, reading. I'm a big fan of listening to things. And I'm a big fan, if something comes up, how do we deal with this and not pushing things away? We should always be growing. So, as my partner, Andy, says, if you're not growing, you're dying.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Have you read the book, The Noticer?
No, I haven't.
I can't remember who it's by, but it's all about this man who just looks at things differently, tries to look at things from a different perspective. And it's kind of like, wow, I haven't read it for a few years, but it helps you to see a different perspective. It's a fictional novel with a really powerful point, just trying to look at things differently. I don't know who the author is. I'll have to look that up. The Noticer.
Okay, I can find it, but definitely, I mean, that sounds like a good one. I'm always in the mood for somebody's story. I love a fictional story that has a good impact, Yeah,
it's a little book. I mean, it's a quick read, but it's impactful.
Awesome.
So, well, thank you so much. I appreciate it, and I will ask anyone who's watching and watches the recording to check out the information, how to follow you on social media and learn from you. And I just really appreciate it.
I love talking to you, Debbie. Anytime you want to come back, let's just do it. You just reach out anytime.
Oh, that'd be awesome. Thanks.
All right. Take care of yourself. Talk to you later. Bye, everybody.
Okay. Stop that. I'll stop the recording. Oh.